Xirtus.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Join us on another exciting adventure of Xirtus.
Awesome, Szymon. I'm so glad to have you here. So you're in Poland right now. What have you been up to recently?
Recently, I'm working all the time, not for only the money, but I'm working for society, especially for Radnawry society. In Polish, this is a rodzimowierczy society. About maybe 12 years from to now, and this is it. We are in my home. In Dąbrowa Górnicza, in Silesian Voivodeship, and we're now speaking.
I noticed that you've changed your hair. I guess you did some donating of hair recently to a cancer society. Do you want to mention their name in case anyone wants to look them up?
Yes. About 3 days ago, I donated my hair because I have very long hair, about 50 centimeters. And yes, this is really long. But my hair gonna grow up. And I donated to organization whose name Rock and Roll. This is rock in English means cancer, and roll. And they make a wig to people who have cancer, especially a child. And I think this is a really good idea because my hair gonna grow up and they are not.
Yeah, that's really wonderful that you did that. I noticed that it's an interesting thing. The Polish community is kind of like the Aboriginals or the Native Americans. I mean, it's a people that have been kind of moved and they've been shrunken and they've been told that they need to also take people to other countries. I mean, refugees have been brought from Poland to Canada and all over the world 100 million Poles later. So it's nice to see the Polish effort to try to like maintain itself, and I think you've been kind of participant in that idea of saving Polish culture. I noticed you've been involved with like the old ways and some things like that. Maybe you want to introduce some of these organizations or what it is that you're part of them.
I think I have to say that the Polish culture is not a Christian Romanic church culture because our native beliefs made that culture. Because we like to dance, to drink, to make a mess everywhere. Really, yes, this is our Polish and Slavic culture. And why? Because of one man who is very terrible to others, and I think so. This name is Adolf Hitler.
Mm.
He told to people then when you want to destroy a country or a people living in some kind of, you don't have to kill them. Only you must to do is destroy their culture. And the Slavic culture for me is a root of tree of many Slavic countries. And I like to be part of Slavic culture and especially a Pole.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because recently there's been a lot of conversation about what actually happened in World War II. I mean, people don't even understand that, nowadays Poland is west on a map from where it used to be. So there are parts of lands that have been taken from Poland and have become Ukraine, like Kiev, and then there's parts of Germany which were part of Germany, but then they had become part of Poland. I mean, today parts of North Italy speak German still. So there's all these moved places, and people talk about the Russian. They call it the Russian conspiracy, the Tartarian Empire. But you look into where Poland was originally, and you look into King Lech, and you get this idea of the Lechites being maybe the root of this culture that was oppressed, which is so similar to the American Indians being oppressed and forced to move to new lands and having their children put in orphanages. You're actually saying that negative energy is the reason why you try to be positive and save Polish culture. What are some of the things that you guys do?
What do we do in Poland? Maybe I start like this. Poland right now and in the early 20th century have the worst kind of terrain that we gonna have in Europe, because on the west we have Germany, who always want to make something like European Union right now, but with a force. And on the east we have Russia, and they always have to do the same like Germany. And in the middle of it, it's Poland all the time. And all the time we have to make war to the east, to the west, to the south, and so on and so on. The Polish territories, it's not only the Ukraine, but Belarus or Lithuania is too Polish, really. The majority of the people from Belarus, Lithuania, and Ukraine understand Polish, really understand. And what do we do in Poland? We grow the roots, only this, because from the roots, the Slavic culture, especially the Polish one, I don't know about Russian culture, because this is not only Slavic, only to the Ural mountains. The Polish is, I don't have that word.
It's a chance for us to learn some Polish right here.
This is really difficult language, really.
It seems like every word you send me is 100 letters long, and it says thank you or yes.
No, thank you is very, very simple. Dziękuję. I don't hear you.
Oh, dziękuję. Sorry, I didn't want to say it wrong on camera.
This is very good pronunciation. What do we do? I have an association in Poland whose name is Ajawia, and I manage a group in Poland, a group of people whose beliefs is mounted in native Slavic religion. And we do festivals, we do prelections, we do everything what is about a native Slavic faith, beliefs, or a culture, material culture.
So this ancient Slavic religion sounds really interesting. You know, these days we look at Catholicism and the Catholic Church. It forced a lot of people to become Catholic, but even at the cost of its own culture. They said, oh, well, you can still worship your gods as saints, you know. And so a lot of the time people think, oh, the Catholic Church erased everything. But people, especially, you know, Slavic saints, we've able to find out what the original intention was. And so it seems like a lot of Polish religion in ancient ways have been saved. What are some of the differences, though, between that and, you know, the Christian, Catholic, or Orthodox, you know?
The major difference between the ancient Slavic faith and the Catholic religion is a sin, because in Slavic religions we don't have something like sin. It makes you when you are a sinner and the Catholics makes you be a sinner, um, you feel sad, really, because you are guilty of something to do. In Slavic religion, there's nothing like this, because when you make something really bad, you must repay this, and you don't have something like sin. But if you do really something bad, you become a Slavic demon after you're dead, like Striga. You know this Striga? I don't know the English pronunciation of this that word, uh, but in a Witcher, the game, you played
The
Witcher 3,
Witcher?
Princess Ada. She have two hearts, very long teeth, claws, fur, and about 3 meters long.
Wow. Okay, so they're tall. They're like giants.
Yes, yes. But I think that faith is a very personal thing. This is something like your shoes. If you have a shoes who is very light and good to you, you like to treat them well and wear it every uh, every time for every journey. Um, about 15, maybe 20 years ago, I think that my shoes, because was Catholic, Roman Catholic Church, is not too good because of the hypocrisy and many lies that I think that church give me.
So you created sort of in your community a way to keep having organization and spirituality, but how did you find out more, or did you already know all these things from Polish culture, or have they been kind of forgotten and you have to look back for them?
Many thanks to Catholic Church, because the beliefs in Poland take everything, almost everything, from the ancient Slavic religion, like Kupała, Night of Kupała. You know what is it?
What's Kupala?
What is Kupała? The ancient Slavic love holiday. Something like Valentine's Day, but in June.
Is it kind of a romantic holiday or some sort of a summer?
The Kupała night. How do I tell you what is it? This is a. Wait a minute. This is a summer equinox, and we celebrate it like a night of love. And we dance all the night. We drink much of alcohol, and many people go to the woods to search. Wait a minute. A fern flower.
What kind of flower is the fern flower for? What's it look like?
It doesn't look like anything because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because you take like a male, take a female to the woods, to the forest, to search for him, but they will never find it. You know what it is? Yes.
Yeah, it sounds perfect. It's a very cool game. I'll have to look for fern flowers more myself. So you have this kind of a series of holidays like this that are more about community engagement, like bringing people together, and not about sin. So you say it's more about atonement of action. Is there a goal then to be good in some way? Like, you might as well not be bad, or how do you try to be good? What are you trying to do?
How do you try to be good? I think that many people think about it to do not harm anything or anyone. I don't think so, because you cannot live your life to do not harm anyone, because this is life, really. When you do harm to anybody or on anything, you must to repay, really, only to repay or apologize someone. And this is it, really. Be good only for it. Not the Buddhist thing, not to kill anyone because we are meat eaters. I think many of people are meat eaters. And to be good, I think to be good is to be good for Mother Earth. Yeah, something like this.
Excellent. So, how would you describe to someone who's never heard about King Lech and the old?
This is not a king. This is a prince. The second ruler of Poland, Bolesław Chrobry, is a king, but Lech is only a prince, and he is, I think, the very good politician because the Christianization of Poland is not the characters of Slavic faith in Poland is going to be about 15th or 16th century our age. This is really a political decision.
And so, how long ago is this the prince? This story?
About 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, in year 966, we have baptized the Poland.
And then, so at that point, like, are there more lands, like Poland's like a larger, or is it the king, the second period, that's larger?
Kings of Poland.
Do you know when Poland was its largest, about, or
Yes, it's about 15th century. Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and this is the most iconic and biggest country, named Poland, because we have a country from Baltic Sea to Black Sea. The Lithuania right now is very small country, but in the Middle Ages, in the 15th century, this is really big, and we have the same king because Jagiełło, Władysław Jagiełło, one of the strongest king of Poland, was Lithuanian.
It's interesting because Lithuania is today, it's got a lot of money, and it seems like it's a very powerful, futuristic state. What helped? Do you think it's because of coming out of the Polish Empire that Lithuania had that culture, or is what kept it? Was it less Soviet? Like, why is it so powerful still, and why is it so small now?
Why is it small now? Because of communists. Right now they are not so powerful country because of the terrain that they have. This is very small country and don't have many of demands. Why is it big in the Middle Ages? I don't really know. Really. In the 15th century, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was a only country in the world who can manage and buy an army of 1 million men. This is really big country. If we wanted to, we could maybe destroy whole Europe, because no one is so strong like Poland in the 15th century. But we have something like Szlachta, and I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Wait a minute. Gentry? Yeah.
Gentry, like Gentr. Well born.
Nobility, yes. Nobility people.
Yeah, I thought you meant that.
Yeah. They like to drink. They like to fight with each other, and because of them, the Poland is right now what we have.
It's interesting. Poland, even during the communists, I mean, the communists used Poland not just for potatoes and vodka, but for the highest forms of the Soviet technology, all the greatest computers. And in Silicon Valley, we copied the Polish internet. The internet comes from Poland. Poland had the internet in the 70s. 70s. That's like 50 years ago. I mean, what? Like, America is just like, wow. we just kind of had to copy this idea. So it makes it seem that much crazier that the Soviets, who were forbidding things and keeping things from happening, still Poland invented the internet. So I mean, there's just so much advancements that came out of Poland in the universities in the 1500s. Do you think that the Polish culture was suppressed by Russia, and what do you think about like the Russian interactions? And there's still to this day Polish speakers in Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine has a Polish community still from 500 years ago. What happened?
What happened? I think that the communist age of Poland is not really good, because I'm born in 1983. I remember the times when in stores there was nothing.
I didn't want to guess, but
No. There was no hunger. Everyone is doing stuff to make something to eat, but there is not much anything in the stores. Really, not much. Nothing. Sometimes nothing. And the age of 90s, early 90s, in Poland is the best thing we fight for. Yeah.
It's you imagine like what iconoclasm, what communism did to Poland to keep it from advancing itself. And you look at Lenin and Stalin as paranoid military strategists, not economists. They weren't thinking about making Poland better in the first place. So they were thinking more about how Poland could be a threat to them. And so they were building trains and moving lands and making sure Russia was big enough so that their military strategy wasn't threatened. And there are economic policies, but it's more about keeping things from being strong. So I mean, it's even by definition and foundation, not the communist time did not want a stronger Poland, and it makes you wonder what Poland is capable of if left to its own devices. Because in 1,000 years, how long has Poland ever been left to their own, just to do their own thing? Like usually it's interacting in confluence and told they have to interact with this, union, the Soviet Union or a European Union or something, but left to their own devices, like what is Poland capable of, and what does Poland want even? Does Poland want to take over the world and make the Polish Empire, or does Poland just want to be just be itself, which is kind of like
No. Polish Empire is a really not good idea, because not many countries drink so much vodka.
You'd be surprised what they put vodka in these days, but yeah. I also wanted to mention in California, what I noticed in the 90s coming out of Croatia to California was similarly that there was a lot of stuff in California, and it was like a movie to replace the Soviet experience in Yugoslavia, where it was not that much, but bread was rotting on the shelves, and it was just for photographs because they wanted to prove how great it was, and it was at the expense of a lot of progress also, because it was gratuitous. So I think it's funny now in America, you go to Whole Foods, which is the organic thing, it's purchased by Amazon stores, and Amazon now puts in these places only as much as there needs to be. So you go to New York and you see, vegetables, and there's not as many people buying as many vegetables. So the shelves only have a few loaves of bread or a few vegetables, because just predicting how much people will buy. And it looks like Poland in the 80s. So makes you wonder about our future,
So
but
you are from Croatia, yes?
Yeah.
You know that you have in Croatia a very good a band, Svarica. Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's really, really good, but they don't make too many songs.
I like, yeah, well, Croatians, they live hard and then they art shortly. But I think there's also sayings about Croatians. So we're a little manic depressive for Slavs, even. We're between funerals and weddings. Oh, that's a cute cat. What's your cat's name?
Didek.
Didik. Very cool.
Didek. It's a Slavic demon.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And this is for I have him about 2 months. I adopt.
Cute. Very cute.
Yes, yes.
So you're saying that the demons they live they're like the immortalization of the actions or of the bad behaviors, or what exactly makes them from behaviors, because if you're not sinning, it's like your actions are immortalized if you don't repay them, or what?
You don't become a demon for eternity. This is a first one, because you could repay your bad movements in life when you're dead. We have in a Slavic culture 2 rituals: the Day of the Dead, 1st of May and end of September, and then we make an offering to Slavic gods and demons to repay the bad things that do the demons.
So kind of like karma.
Kind of like, yes. This is very similar because Slavic culture is from India. Something like this, but very similar.
There's a lot of evidence of this in the language because of the Sanskrit words. Can you think of any examples of how it came from India, or why you know that?
My brother, about 15 years ago, was in Iran, the ancient Persia, and surprised because in we have a word 500 in Polish is 500, and the Persian pronunciation of 500 is 500. The same, really the same. The similarities from language is a clue that the culture of our nations is very similar. Yeah.
And so there are also words that the Russians use that are Slavic as well, but they use them differently. And then do you think that the Russians and the Greeks use some words that are Sanskrit but they're Slavic based? So the Greeks for a long time claimed that they invented the language first. Now there's Russians claiming they invented the language first. Do you think it's possible that it's the Poles brought it from like India, like that might be where it comes, like that they might have a more root use of the Sanskrit than other Europeans?
Every archaeological discovery on Slavic grounds tell us that Slavic peoples have no letters.
So like they didn't have symbols for the sounds.
Yes, it is. And Sanskrit is a very old language, but the meaning of many of the words is changed because we have in Latin something like divina, and in English we have divine, and this is the same
Etymology.
Yeah, but in Sanskrit divina mean insane.
To be outside of sanity, to be crazy.
Yes.
Wow.
And many people think that when you gonna be touched by God, you're gonna be insane, and this is the similarity because you have divine and divina in Sanskrit mean you're insane.
Those might be related. Like you think about how often you see outside of what other people see, most people would interpret that as crazy. It's kind of like the folklore stories. They look at like somebody like let's say you go to an elf or Hilde folk, like some hidden fairy elf people's realm, and they can make things and they have technology, but it's referred to as magic, right? Like there's this idea of magic to explain away. Like magic is also similar to insanity. Like if you can't understand it.
Yes, in ancient Greek, there is many of oracles in there, and women or men who are oracle was insane, really insane people.
Yeah, they lived by the caves and they breathed the vapors of the caves, the fumes.
Yes.
They probably were a little insane,
Yes.
but they might have been right.
Yes, it is. It is.
Then if the Polish culture is perhaps this really old Indo-Aryan Sanskrit culture, and right now in America, they're even finding Slavic people, and there's a land bridge and things. Do you think that there could have been at one point a more like a Lechite origin story than a Tartarian origin story, or do you think that could be the same thing, that the Poles are a much like there's an older thing that's being hidden here?
We have a bridge between Europe, Eurasia to America, but this is about 10th century before Christ, I think so. And we could name people Slavic in European continent in about 5th century our age only. Then Slavic people is not too old, really. Before that, there was some people in the woods, in swamps, but this is not Slavic. Slavic Indo-Aryo culture is really very old, but Slavic in a way in Europe.
So they came from Indo area into Europe at some point, and you think that's more recently, or at some point? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
When do you think is the earliest that they could have come? Probably
5th century. 5th century our age. Yeah.
Okay. And so another question: do you think Polish or Russian vodka is vodka from? And do you know? Yeah.
This is going to be an cultural war. All right.
But facts are facts. It's Polish. Sorry.
I know. I like really Russian vodka because this is much sweeter than a Polish vodka. Because
they do their thing well. That's true. But who's first? Who's first?
Who invented first the wheel?
Probably the Poles. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
after a few drinks, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know who invented first vodka. But the name, the proportion of water and pure alcohol, about 40%, is made by Dmitry Mendeleev, and he was Russian.
Yes? Well, when was that though? He's St. Petersburg, or is he? Where's he from? He's not Moscovian, right? Like I think if he's from St. Petersburg, all bets are off, man. Russia, if he's from Kiev, even like you don't even know. With Russia, they're just making stuff up. Plus the vodka is 13th century, so it makes more sense that it'd be Polish. There's been actually a couple documentaries that have talked about how the Russians lied about and forged evidence that they made the vodka. In the 70s, the Russians wanted to say it was a Russian invention so that they could control it. But, vodka is like a medicine. If you look at it makes more sense because Polish medicine in the 1300s was trying to come up with all these solutions for things. But, if you can't feel it, it's all right. I'm pretty convinced. The thing is, there's no potatoes before 1600, right?
Yes,
potatoes come from Peru. So it couldn't have been Russian potato sweet vodka, but it could have been rye grain vodka in Poland. If it existed before Columbus, then it had to have been Polish. But
All right, then vodka is a Polish invention. Yeah.
yes, that's what I want to hear. All right. Well, okay. What about in terms of the different cities that Poland has lost? Do you think there are any cities or any places that Poland needs back? Do you guys want Crimea like the Russians do, or are you guys happy with what you have? Or
I think that most of Polish people is happy what we have, but especially Lvov in Ukraine is the city that we really desire because of the history of the city. From there, there is many of Polish scientists, especially with mathematics. Maybe we don't want to make Ukraine to give our city back because this is Ukraine land, but we really love this town.
can you introduce the Lviv city a bit?
Maybe about I want to tell about the people of the Lviv. There was a very famous mathematic whose name is Stanisław Banach. The most important really is he made very much of mathematic what? Mathematic theories. And he
What's
made
the Polish word for theory, by the way? I'm curious.
teoria.
Yeah, see, it's like most of them are Greek root or Sanskrit Greek root. So actually, isn't it interesting how many words are similar and not even that different? Especially, you're like the most complicated words I think you're looking for are the most close to the English word because they're Greek, you know?
Yeah. About Lvov, I've been there about 2 years ago, and I look around and I see a Krakow, very similar to Krakow, but in a worse shape and very big. Really, this is a really big city with a really big old town. And there is many of Polish writings on the buildings, many of Polish shops, and really everybody know and understand Polish. Then when you go there, you don't have to know Ukrainian language or Russian. You could everything buy or tell in Polish, and everyone will understand.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's even to this day, even after the Soviet Union and everything, it's still Polish, you know, it still made it.
There was a special department in University of Lvov.
What's the word for department?
Wydział.
Wydział. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's a different one.
Ale też, but we can pronounce it like a department in Polish, and this is a similar. There is a special department of mathematics who made Stanisław Banach. And students from this department in post-war Poland, they go to Poland and make many of universities, especially in Gliwice or Krakow or Warsaw, and they learn mathematics to other.
And so in terms of trading mathematics and sciences, what do you think Poland had the most, like how about it, like astronomy or radiology in the 20th century? What are some of the fields, computers clearly, what are some of the fields that Poland really had some greats in?
I think that not maybe 20th century, but earlier, there was Skłodowska-Curie from physics and chemistry. And we have many nobelists from literature. What do we have? Wait a minute. We have Skłodowska-Curie and Henryk Sienkiewicz, Władysław Reymont, Czesław Miłosz. This is all the Polish noblist. Wisława Szymborska, who died in 2012. This is really, really good people with really good writing.
And do you think, are you familiar with any Russian literature, and do you think that there is a Polish answer to Taurus Bulba?
In Poland, this is only my thing about Russians. They have really nice language. I like it very much because this is, to me, is a language to sing or to pronounce literature. It's really nice to my ears, and I like a singer from Russia whose name is Bułat Okudżava. Send it through Messenger. And I think we don't have bad feelings to Russians because not Russians make what we have now, but the Russian government. Russians is very good people. We like to party with them. We like to drink vodka and make jokes. And everybody in some kind of way is understanding anybody because of the language, similarities, and everything what we have in common.
So in general, though, the concerns you would say of Poland to maintain Polish statehood and independence and autonomy, which is kind of, it's kind of a special thing in a lot of ways. Poland's at the forefront of saying these kinds of things, but also are the American Indians. But, in general, what are some of the concerns that Poland has, and what is Poland trying to maintain about itself at this point?
What are the concerns of Polish people? Russia. This is our concerns. Because they want very much from every country they are nearby. And many people in Poland think that they want the same thing in what they want in Second World War. To be the Poland gonna be a part of Russian Federation.
I mean, look at Crimea. So I mean, it's not like a complete hypothetical. Scary thought.
NATO, we are in NATO, and the Ukraine not.
Yeah,
and
so
they are afraid of it.
I mean, yeah, it was the first time I ever felt like NATO was worth a damn, I'll tell you. But so what do you think then if Poland is concerned that something that's already happened to another country could happen to them, and the European Union is simultaneously trying to make all these requirements and tell you what you can do with your own state? It's needless to say un-American. We don't like that idea either. So I don't know. So what do you think is the concern though, that why is Poland not just letting everyone tell them what to do and submissive to all of these requirements of other states like Russia and Europe?
I think this is very Slavic because we cherish our freedom. The freedom is wait a minute. The freedom is a basis of every Slavic country. We love the freedom, we cherish the freedom, and the freedom is all we need in our country, especially when someone told us what to do, what to eat, what to say. We don't like it. Really, we don't like it. Maybe the other countries in Europe sell their freedom for maybe like a peace. But we are not peaceful country. We are not peaceful people. We like freedom.
I mean, really, it's worth it, I think.
Yes.
So okay, so in terms of your future, do you see Poland existing in the future? Do you see Poland in 100 years? Do you think 50 even? Do you think in 100? Do you think how far can you see Poland? And what do you see most vividly in 50 or 100 years? What do you want Poland to be like? And do you think it'll be like that?
I think that Poland have many years of prosperity from now because we after 1989 we bring many of our people to country, and they are very brilliant people, very intelligent. We have a free university for everyone. We could make Poland really a technological, tell me this word.
Technology hub, technology center, technology.
We could be a Silicon Valley of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I like technology cow. That wasn't bad, like a cash cow, because you guys have 3D printer technology. You guys have database and mainframe technology. You guys have video compression technology. You guys have video game and physics engine technology. There's not a thing in technology that Poland isn't actually advancing the world in. And when I use open source and free software code, there's not a time where I don't find some crazy name without vowels that's Polish involved with the project. So there's a lot of Poles involved with technology.
And there is one thing that Polish is great, because when you travel around the world, you could say very loudly "kurwa," and someone say, "Oh, Polish," and everywhere, really everywhere in the whole world, there is a much of Polish people, really.
Yeah, that's another weirdly interesting thing we were saying at the beginning is, like, you go to Australia, you go to Canada, you go to Bermuda, or you go to Bolivia, and there will be Polish people living in Bolivia. What happened? It's like, at some point, Polish people went everywhere, and it was like 100 million people exodus and all over the world. So it's crazy how many Poles you'll find.
And we made the best kiełbasa and pierogi in the world. Dumplings and the sausage.
Croatians have some pretty good chichava as well, but you're right. Kiełbasa is great. I love it. I'm gonna eat some later. Yeah.
Heavy industry is not a future of Poland. I think that technology, internet, and programming is a future of Poland. For about 100 years from now, I think that gonna be an technological hub for all the world.
I mean, it's if you really look at the history of Poland, it already was, and I think that that's a pretty accurate assessment of where Poland's going. When you look at the original internet and what Poland has created, it might actually be. I think that's a good perspective. Very good. I really appreciate that you were able to make time to do this, Szymon, and I think that this is really important.
Come to Poland and see this country by your own eyes, because you won't regret it. This is a country of very nice people. We have very good vodka, beautiful women's, especially the landscapes in whole of Poland. We have mountains, we have lowlands, we have sea, we have everything, really. Then come here and maybe stay with us.
Beautiful. I mean, that's the most welcoming thing I think you could ever get. I'm very appreciated being invited. I hope everybody understands how awesome and beautiful Poland is, because there's a lot more to Poland than I think anyone ever realized.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you too. All right.
To believe, but it's me. This program is coming to you via Relay 2 satellite, a spacecraft orbiting the Earth at a speed of over 17,000 miles per hour.